I'm sure there is. All right, so let's talk about how you're going to analyze your data for lab 7. So you just need something to write with right now because I'm going to go over what you would basically how you would figure this out. So in terms of the lab question, you're trying to figure out is the drag force on a coffee filter proportional to V, or is the drag force proportional to V squared? You don't know. That's what your ultimate objective was to figure that out. So what you really have to do is when we talk about this proportionality, what does that mean? It means that the graph of the drag force, or actually it should be the speed versus the drag force. Well, the graph, whatever graph you make, is a diagonal line. Okay. So what you're ultimately going to have to do is figure out how do you make a graph of the with the data that you've got. Do you actually have to calculate speed? Not necessarily. Because we made an assumption in this lab, right? Do you remember what you had to assume? Yeah. So we had to assume that VT is reached immediately. So that meant that it was falling with a constant. You don't need Chromebooks. I don't know why you have Chromebooks out yet. I'm doing stuff on paper. So if the terminal speed is reached immediately, that means when it falls, that the speed would be equal to the average speed or the constant speed, which could be found by looking at the displacement over the time. I don't think, based upon what I remember reading with your labs and your procedures, that anybody tried varying how far they were falling. You did all of your trials with the same vertical distance. Is that correct? Did anybody vary the distance and then measure? So you kept time the same, measuring distance versus, okay. So since this is a constant, you could just plot drag force versus the inverse of the time. Okay. So, and drag force, again, nobody measured drag force, which would be proportional, the same thing as the weight. You're going to do it all in terms of coffee filters. So basically what you're going to have, you varied the mass in coffee filters. You can plot this 1 over time. And if it's speed squared, it would be 1 over time squared. You don't actually have to calculate a speed. Both of these, you're going to make diagonal line graphs. How are you going to determine which is the better diagonal line? We have a way to determine if you have a better diagonal line. The what value? Not the R squared. Yeah. So you're going to look at your R squared for each graph. And using that R squared, it should be able to tell you which is the better fit. Okay, you have to plot both. 1 over time, which would be basically the speed, or 1 over time squared, which would be the speed squared. So this is 1 over seconds. This is 1 over seconds squared. And these are in terms of coffee filters. You're going to just add your diagonal lines. That's pretty easy. Now, in terms of the data you have multiple data points for each coffee filter. You need to get 2 things for each of those. Do you know what those 2 things are when you do multiple trials for the same filter? Average and standard deviation. Okay, so make sure that with your data tables, for each number of filters, you include an average at the bottom of your chart and a standard deviation, because confidence is going to come from this standard deviation. You need to remember every lab conclusion should talk about confidence you have in the data you collected. That comes from your standard deviation. Okay. And your averages are in seconds, so are your standard deviations. Standard deviations are same units as the data itself. Okay. So in terms of this lab report, it's not really a full lab report. Your lab report's going to include the following things. Do you need to give me a procedure? No, you already did that. What you have to start with are your data tables, your graphs. You're not going to have any calculations. We just talked about you don't need to do any calculations at all. Nothing. Because the Google Sheet does the averages and the standard deviations for you. Then you have to talk about the results that you achieved. This is basically your analysis of the data. And then your conclusion. Or conclusions, which are the normal things. Okay? That's your lab report for this. Please make sure you tell me the lab number and the title and who wrote this lab. That's got to be on the top of this one. It wasn't on top of the procedure because I didn't want you to know whose lab you were evaluating. All right, questions? All right, so you just have today to work on that in class, but it is due next Friday. In terms of other things for next week. So here's the game plan next week. Monday, you have a test on chapters 4 and 5. This is going to be the part 2, the show work. So you can make your cheat sheet for that. The reason I'm doing that is because that way I have Tuesday to grade it. Gives me a little more time. On Tuesday, you're going to take your test. Not Tuesday. You're not here Tuesday, nor am I. It's federal holiday, Veterans Day. Thank your veterans. Wednesday, test on chapters 4 and 5. This will be the multiple choice because I can grade that 5-10 minutes tops. Thursday, I'm going to be nice. You're going to do your corrections on part 1 of the test in class. Okay, I'm going to give you that. Friday is going to be the chapter 6 presentation. So on Friday, you need to make sure you've read chapter 6 and taken your notes. Okay. To give you a heads up, I don't want you worrying. I am not going to be here next Friday. Don't worry. That's a planned absence for me. I have to head down to Sloan Kettering, which is a cancer institute, to get a second opinion about what's going on. I did not get the results I wanted for my last surgery. So I have to find out what the heck is going on. They just want to keep operating on me. And I'm like, time out. I am not a pincushion. I don't want to go back under the knife unless I really have to. So I'm going to go talk to one of their leading cancer experts in the country on what's going on with me. Figure, why not? Okay, so don't worry. I'm okay. It's not like, oh my God, I got hit by a bus and I'm not here. It's a planned absence. I'll be back on Monday, the day. Okay, so this presentation on Friday is going to be a video presentation. So you'll just watch me teaching kids last year, doing the video with that. Okay, but this is why I'm doing the corrections here in class. Gives you some time to do that. And then on Thursday, all of the chapter 6 and 7 assignments will post. It's, again, a 2-chapter unit. So you can start working on those assignments in advance because the first textbook assignment will be due on Monday. All right, so you can start time managing. Now, you guys are like laughing like that's funny. Is that funny? Do you want me to just give you one assignment a day and then, oh, you can't work ahead? I would hope not. You have to, that's part of college. You have to manage your time. I could tell you what all the assignments are for the whole year if you want. And you can work at your own pace. But you have to have things done by the test. That's another way to do it. I don't think you want that though. Okay, so I'm trying to give you, you can map out what those assignments are and how to get your things done in the time you have. All right. But chapters 6 and 7 are the last two chapters that count on your midterm. So chapters 1 through 7, you're going to have a midterm exam in December, which I talked to you about in September. And that's going to be on chapters 1 through 7. Chapters 6 and 7 are all about work and energy and the law of conservation of energy. We go a lot more into conservation of energy. We talk about thermal energies and calculating thermal energies in this course, which you didn't really do last year. So we do it conservation of energy, both with and without friction. So your midterm exam in December, I'll tell you the dates of these now so you can start working on trying to learn things that you didn't learn before because you don't really have much time left. It's in about a month. Remember, we are on a college schedule, and that's why midterm happens in December. All right, so that midterm exam will happen on Tuesday, December 16, and Wednesday, December 17. I will be giving you a packet, actual paper packet to help you review for the midterm. It's all multiple choice, and that will be due on a Sunday, December 14th by 7 p.m., meaning that you're going to be submitting your answers to the review assignment electronically through Google Classroom by 7 p.m. At 7:05 p.m. that Sunday, I will post the solutions to the review. And that way you can check it before you show up in class on Monday the 15th. So that way we can spend all 40 minutes just answering your questions instead of me taking 10 minutes of class time to give you the answers to that review packet. You can do it at home, but you have to show me you have it done first. And that counts as a homework grade, having the review done. I will give you that review packet. You want it now? Might as well just give it to you now. I have it duplicated. Yeah. Why don't I just hand it out now? So that way you can work on it again at your leisure. Keep in mind, chapters 6 and 7, we haven't done it yet. But you probably can answer a lot of them based upon what you've already done from Regents. Okay? Any questions for me? Okay, so those are your assignments if you want to get together. Let me just give you the packet and then you can get together. This is your review packet for the midterm. You might want to write on it midterm review packet. There's an answer sheet. That's in your book. They're all moving around, so I don't know if I got you your packet or not. Right on the top of this midterm exam review packet. All right, you know what? See, it's juvenile. That's juvenile. All right. Anybody else need packets? Did everybody get a packet? Okay. Right on the top of it, midterm exam review. Please put your name on the top of that answer sheet. When you submit your answers to this, you're just taking pictures of your answer sheet and submitting them. All right, the front and the back, because there are, how many questions on this review? 110 minus 3, so 107 review questions to help you get ready for the midterm. Remember, you got to get a B- or better on the midterm in order to be exempt from the final. Okay, that's one of the requirements, along with a B- or better every marking period. So, and there is no cheat sheet for the midterm. Okay, you just got to know it. I will give you the AP reference table, but I will not allow you to have a cheat sheet. You do get a cheat sheet for the chapter 4 and 5 test. Your chapter test, you can always have a cheat sheet.